Buck is a bitch. Don't, bruh. I hate Buck. I hate young Buck, fam. Buck is and so we ain't gonna talk about Buck at all, period.
Too many trans women have came out to out his, okay? At this point, this man is
off the camera, my nigga.
You said what?
Take me off the camera.
What's up with you and 50?
Take me off the camera.
What you mean take you off the camera, bro?
He said he didn't want to be recorded.
So he said you with trainers, is that true?
When G-Unit first hit the scene, they were riding high on the massive success of 50 Cent. The crew came in strong, united, and ready to take on anyone who dared to challenge them. Among the members, one guy who really stood out was Young Buck. He was super grateful for the opportunity 50 gave him and didn't waste any time proving his worth. His debut album went platinum and it looked like nothing could go wrong for him.
Shawty wanna ride with me, we can get low, hop into the shit before dope.
But then, things took a wild turn. His infamous falling out with 50 Cent sent his life into a downward spiral that just kept getting worse. He went from being one of the most beloved rappers in the game to someone who lost a lot of respect in the hip-hop community.
Buck is a bitch. Don't, bruh. I hate Buck. I hate young Buck, fam. Buck is a bitch. So we ain't gonna talk about Buck at all, period.
It seemed like controversy followed him everywhere, and even when he tried to clear his name, it just never worked out in his favor.
Young Buck is a LGBT member.
Whatever the you thought you seen on the tape, it ain't no mother tape or no mother punk sucking my. But for you or cook up in particular.
Eventually, he even ended up filing for bankruptcy.
I ended up having to file bankruptcy into that situation.
The home once owned by rap artist Young Buck is up for sale. The house, valued at $350,000, was raided by the IRS as payment for $300,000 in back taxes.
It's crazy to think about how Young Buck started out. He was this talented 14-year-old kid with a real knack for freestyling and rapping. He got one of the hottest cosigns by getting signed to G-Unit, which was huge.
Saying we here now, we in the building. They finally finna let me in, you understand me?
Buck was the southern piece of G-Unit, bringing that southern flair, wild energy, bars, unique slang, and a different sound and beats to the group. He was the one who expanded G-Unit's reach beyond just their own artists. Buck featured a bunch of southern heavyweights like Ludacris and T.I., adding something fresh and much needed to the crew. He was also the one consistently dropping music for G-Unit, becoming the most reliable member in terms of output. But somewhere down the line, Buck made some terrible decisions that led to his downfall. It's like he never fully recovered, and his career just couldn't reach the heights it should have. Worst of all, he lost a lot of the respect he once had from both his peers and fans. So what exactly went wrong for Young Buck? Let's dive into the details.
Off the camera, my nigga.
You said what?
Take me off the camera.
What's up with you and 50?
Take me off the camera.
What you mean take you off the camera, bro?
He said he didn't want to be recorded.
So he said you with trainers, is that true?
When Young Buck was just a kid, he used to freestyle with his friends, battling anyone he could find in Nashville. That's how he started making a name for himself locally. One day, he and his friend Lil Jimmy came across a CD from BG, who was signed to Cash Money Records at the time. The CD was called Chopper City, and on the back there was a phone number for Cash Money Records. Without really knowing what they were doing, Buck and Lil Jimmy decided to call the number. They told Cash Money they wanted to book them for a show in Nashville and claimed they had about $5,000 to make it happen.
We were really joking in regards to calling them. Lil Jimmy had called the number on the back and he was asking them, you know, what y'all want to come down here. And I think Baby had said something around $5,000 or something like that. And we was like, what? We couldn't believe it.
To their surprise, Cash Money took the bait and agreed to the show. Next thing they knew, Cash Money was in Nashville ready to perform. But the show never actually happened. Instead, Buck and Lil Jimmy ended up meeting everyone from Cash Money Records. The first thing Birdman did was ask Buck to spit a freestyle. Buck went head-to-head with Lil Wayne, trading bars back and forth. Birdman was seriously impressed.
Baby was there. Baby's first words to me, I never forget him in life, was when he looked at me up and down, and he said, spit something, Lil one. So me and Wayne had a standoff almost. You know, Wayne spit, I would spit, Wayne would spit, I would spit.
He decided to take young Buck under his wing, bringing him from Nashville to New Orleans with the idea of signing him to Cash Money Records. Buck was only 14 at the time, and it was 1995. He dropped out of school to focus entirely on his music career. Back then, Cash Money Records wasn't the massive powerhouse it is today. Birdman was grinding hard with a bunch of artists trying to make them blow up. Buck joined the crew, hoping to make it big alongside them. But as the years went by, things didn't go as planned for Buck. He spent about 3 to 4 years with Cash Money, and none of his music ever got released. He got sidelined while other Cash Money artists like Lil Wayne, Juvenile, and BG were blowing up. It was a frustrating time for him because he had all this talent but no way to show it to the world.
Looking for opportunity, I seen opportunity, I took it. I was supposed to be in school at the time. I dropped out of school. Those years, I mean, they progress was happening. You never even heard me on a project. Time passed and I'm watching all this success and not seeing nothing happen for me. It became a time where I was like, this ain't gonna work for me.
The only thing Buck really has to show from his time with Cash Money is his appearance in the Big Timers' Big Ballin' music video. By 1999, Buck had had enough. He was tired of waiting for his big break that never seemed to come. He decided to leave Cash Money and do his own thing because it was clear that nothing was working out for him there in terms of getting his career off the ground.
Like I say, I became older, a little more eager for wanting my shot to happen, and I left.
But being with Cash Money for those years wasn't a total loss. Buck soaked up a lot of industry knowledge and met some key people who would play critical roles in his career later on. For instance, he met DJ Paul from 3 6 Mafia, who would become an important connection for him down the line. He also crossed paths with Juvenile, who was a big deal at Cash Money and would end up helping him out later. In 1999, Buck returned to Nashville and started working independently. He linked up with his local friends, including a rapper named D-Tay. Together, they released an independent album called Thuggin' Till the End on August 22nd, 2000. Surprisingly, this project actually charted on Billboard. It hit number 34 on the US R&B charts and number 17 on the US independent charts. They managed to sell around 10,000 copies, and Buck realized that music was his new hustle. Even though he was making good money, he still had one foot in the streets. But a home invasion robbery changed that for him. He got shot multiple times, which made him rethink his choices. After that, he decided to leave the street life behind and focus 100% on music.
My ordeal back in the streets, I ended up getting shot in a home invasion and a robbery.
From that moment of me being shot, I made a decision within myself and within life that changed my whole entire life.
After hearing about Buck's shooting, DJ Paul reached out to him. DJ Paul had been a big fan of Buck since meeting him during the Cash Money days. He called Project Pat to pick up Buck from Nashville and bring him to Memphis. They recorded some tracks together, and one of them, Memphis, made it onto 3 6 Mafia's album When the Smoke Clears 66-61. Although this was a good look for Buck, he never ended up signing with 3 6 Mafia. He went back to Nashville and continued hustling independently as an artist. As Buck kept grinding, his buzz started growing. Birdman noticed him again and called him up, saying he had a new group called Head Busses and wanted Buck to be a part of it. Buck flew back to New Orleans to meet with Birdman. This time everything was different. The offices were bigger, the cars were flashier, Cash Money had blown up. But after a week of just waiting around with no official paperwork being signed, Buck got frustrated again.
Led to me getting a call again from Baby. You know, this time it was more or less, yo, I'm about to start this group called Head Busses. So, you know, at the end of the day, I went back being there for like a week or so of sitting around. I started to get a little itchy. Like you said, I done became a man now. It ain't like I was a child.
He ran into Juvenile, who told him, "I'm leaving Cash Money, come and join me, I'm starting my own thing." That's when Buck officially joined Juvenile's UTP record label.
He was like, man, you wanna get up out of here for a minute? You know what I'm saying? And I took that ride with Juvie. And that's where my career started, with Juvenile.
Young Buck got the contract to sign to UTP, but he didn't sign it immediately. Instead, he put the contract under his bed and never officially signed it. So technically, he wasn't officially signed to Juvenile's UTP Records. During his time with UTP, he did release 2 projects, Born to be a Thug on October 10th, 2002, and a compilation album with the group UTP Playas on October 8th, 2002. As time went on, Buck realized that Juvenile was having his own personal problems with Cash Money and was dealing with a lot. At one point, Juvenile told Buck, "If you come across an opportunity, go ahead and take it." While on tour with Juvenile, they ended up in New York. Around that time in 2002, 50 Cent had the hottest buzz in New York. The tour bus driver had a connection to 50 Cent's former manager, Shaw Money XL. Buck kept pestering the driver to bring 50 Cent on the tour bus so they could potentially record together. Eventually it happened, but 50 was only there to record with Juvenile. While Juvenile and 50 were in the back of the bus recording, Buck played some of his solo tracks for Lloyd Banks and Tony Yayo. One of the tracks caught Lloyd Banks' attention, and he took it to 50. 50 liked what he heard and jumped on the track, which would later become Bloodhound on the Get Rich or Die Tryin' album.
I'll tell y'all, that record was Bloodhound on 50's Get Rich or Die Tryin'. Basically, 50, heard the record and liked the record, seen what he seen in me, gave me the biggest opportunity of my life.
50 Cent, get a buck. 50 Cent, that's my name. Man, I ain't playing.
50 Cent liked Young Buck, but couldn't offer him a deal right away because Buck wasn't signed to any label. As time went on, Buck had issues with UTP, and a week after that deal fizzled out, 50 Cent called him up. 50 said, "We want that Bloodhound track. We'll pay you $20,000 for it and let us put it on the album." The track is getting mixed by Eminem and Dr. Dre. 50 wanted to fly Buck out to Los Angeles to meet with him, Eminem, and Dr. Dre, and officially sign him to G-Unit. So, Buck's first major splash with G-Unit Records came with his feature on 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Tryin' on the track Bloodhound. Instead of going straight to his solo debut, 50 decided to drop a G-Unit group album titled Beg for Mercy. This album served as Buck's grand introduction to the world, and boy did it work. The album was a massive hit, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200 and selling a whopping 377,000 copies in its first week. It's now sold over 2.7 million copies in the US and is nearly diamond worldwide. This set the stage perfectly for young Buck to release his solo debut. In 2004, Buck was all geared up to drop his own album. But before that, G-Unit did what they do best: drop a mixtape to create some serious buzz. On May 31st, 2004, he released Welcome to the Hood on the G-Unit platform, hosted by DJ Woo Kid. The summer of 2004 saw the release of his first single, Let Me In, featuring 50 Cent on July 2nd. The track did well, peaking at number 34 on the Billboard Hot 100. Then, just a month and a half later, on August 24th, 2004, Buck dropped his debut album Straight Outta Cashville. The album debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, selling 361,000 copies in its first week and eventually went platinum. The second single, Shorty Wanna Ride, dropped on August 26, 2004, and became Buck's highest charting solo single, peaking at number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. However, Buck's success was overshadowed by a serious incident at the 2004 Vibe Awards on November 15th. That night, the who's who of hip-hop, including Dr. Dre, Eminem, 50 Cent, and the whole G-Unit crew, were present alongside Suge Knight. During the event, a man named Jimmy Johnson allegedly assaulted Dr. Dre, and Buck, in response, allegedly stabbed him. Buck went on the run, but eventually turned himself in a few days later. It took about a year and a half for the case to be resolved, resulting in Buck getting 3 years probation and 80 hours of community service. In 2005, while Buck didn't release a new album, he stayed busy featuring on various tracks and even dropping an independent album to promote his upcoming artists. 50 had expanded G-Unit, giving Buck control over G-Unit South, and Buck kept the momentum going with several successful mixtapes. Behind the scenes, though, things were getting rocky at G-Unit Records. 50 Cent and his former manager, Shaw Money XL, who was managing everyone on the label, were clashing over business matters. 50 told everyone to get new management, but Buck, being loyal to Shaw Money XL, didn't want to leave him.
50 immediately started to bring me and the guys together in the rooms at the office and say things like, well, look, y'all gonna have to find another manager. I just dropped Buck the World. Not only that, this is the only manager I know. Not only that, Shaw Money had became a best friend of mine. I'm the best man on this man's wedding.
This loyalty put Buck at odds with 50, who claimed that Buck's real issues were his associations with 50's enemies like The Game, Jadakiss, Fat Joe, and Jim Jones. On top of that, Buck was reportedly blowing through money and neglecting his taxes, leading 50 to step in and pay his taxes twice. When it happened a third time, 50's patience ran out. During this period, Buck started performing solo more often, raising questions about his status with G-Unit. In interviews, he insisted he was still part of the group but was focusing on growing his brand.
Okay, I was like, so G-Unit, Buck is G-Unit all
straight
day.
up and down.
Ain't gonna know
God forbid, but the minute that you ever see me away from this is death or the penitentiary. I don't believe in breaking up.
However, behind the scenes, he and 50 hadn't spoken for nearly 8 months while Buck was promoting his new album. Shaw Money XL eventually told Buck to call 50 and sort things out, which they did, allowing them to refocus on Buck's career. As Buck started to promote himself more as a solo artist, he pushed Cashville Records over G-Unit South, wearing Tenakey t-shirts instead of G-Unit clothing. This fueled speculation about his status in G-Unit. Things took a turn in January 2008 when Buck appeared at a show with Lil Wayne and Birdman, who publicly suggested Buck join Young Money Cash Money and leave his label. Buck's apparent agreement with this didn't sit well with 50.
Hold on, Wayne. That way he started at. So like I said, Young Money, Cash Money, Young Buck.
In February 2008, G-Unit released a mixtape, Return of the Body Snatchers Vol 1, but Buck was notably absent, confusing fans who had recently heard him on a group track. The following month, 50 and Buck had a private conversation that Buck didn't know was being recorded. Despite the tension, they managed to patch things up again. However, this reunion would be short-lived. Just a couple weeks later, on March 20th, 2008, an interview with Yo Raps magazine came out where Young Buck dropped a bombshell. He claimed he had never received any royalties from 50 Cent or G-Unit Records. In his words, "I'm still waiting on a royalty check, period. I've never seen a royalty check since I've signed with G-Unit, so hell yeah. I'll tell you one damn thing, that show money is good. I've never in my career cashed a royalty check. How you like that?" Naturally, this stirred up even more trouble between Buck and 50. But the thing was, the interview was old, and the magazine released it months after it was conducted. Shaw Money XL, Buck's manager at the time, tried to put out the fire the very next day on March 21st, 2008. He denied the claims, stating, "There has been a new rumor going around that 50 Cent has not paid Young Buck any royalties. I, as Buck's manager and former president of G-Unit Records, want to make it clear that the rumor is false. Young Buck has cleared over $10 million from working under 50's and my guidance. I don't know if the writer waited 2 months from the interview to stir some new drama up or took his words wrong, but Buck is waving the G-Unit flag strong. I also add that any talks of Buck signing to any other labels are false. People are playing on the divide and conquer card, and that's not going to work." But this statement didn't resolve the underlying issues. Just a couple weeks later, on April 7th, 2008, on a Monday morning, 50 Cent called in to Hot 97 and officially announced that Young Buck was no longer part of G-Unit as a group member, although he was still signed to G-Unit Records as a solo artist.
You can take this as official notice right here, because we're on the hottest morning show in the world right now.
Ow.
Young Buck is no longer in the group G-Unit, but signed to G-Unit as a solo artist.
The following week, the entire G-Unit crew went to Hot 97, and 50 revealed more details, claiming Buck had a drug problem. Young Buck stayed quiet initially, but on May 12, 2008, he dropped a new track called My Interview, where he addressed his ousting from G-Unit and the drug allegations. Things remained relatively quiet between Buck and G-Unit until June 15, 2008, when Buck went on stage and yelled out, "F G-Unit."
G-Unit, nigga.
Just a couple days later, on June 17, 2008, 50 Cent officially released the full taped conversation where Buck was crying to him on the phone. The very next day, Young Buck dropped an official diss track towards 50 Cent called The Tape Conversation, responding to the leaked phone call. Then on July 1st, 2008, G-Unit dropped their second album, Terminate on Sight, but Young Buck was only featured on 4 tracks. For the rest of 2008, Buck didn't release much new music. According to him, 50 Cent was hindering his ability to record and release a new album. So in 2009, Buck had to take a different route and started releasing a bunch of mixtapes. Then, on August 3rd, 2010, the IRS raided Young Buck's home for over $300,000 in unpaid taxes. During the raid, they found a gun, since Buck was a convicted felon due to the incident at the 2004 Vibe Awards. This became a significant issue, and he ended up being charged for possessing the firearm despite his claims that it wasn't his. A couple weeks after the raid, on August 19, 2010, Buck filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which allowed him to be released from his G-Unit Records contract. He continued to drop more mixtapes and albums independently, but 2011 brought more legal troubles. In March of 2011, G-Unit Records filed a $10 million lawsuit against Young Buck, adding to his mounting legal problems. A few months later, on March 4, 2012, Buck survived a drive-by shooting. That night, he reportedly got into a scuffle at a club in South Nashville. While he and his girlfriend were chilling in their car, someone drove by and shot at the vehicle 11 times. Thankfully, Buck wasn't hurt, but his girlfriend was hit once in the shoulder.
One of the guys ended up grabbing all of that, and I'm like, hold on, homie, chill, you know what I mean? That's my old lady. And it turned into, you ain't your old lady type of thing. And I'm like, what? And I could see the fire coming from the car, so I kind of knew what the car was. And I just grabbed my old lady at that time, man, and pushed her down. She got hit.
Following this incident, Buck had to face trial for his IRS debts. On July 13, 2012, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison on weapons charges. The following month, the IRS held an auction to sell off Buck's possessions, collecting $53,000. The IRS stated that this auction was a last resort.
IRS says this auction was the last resort as it tries to get the nearly $200,000 in taxes the former G-Unit star owes.
On August 6, 2012, Young Buck officially turned himself in to serve his 18-month prison sentence. After serving his time, Buck was released on October 2, 2013. Post-release, he didn't drop any new music for a while, and it seemed like there was a lot of downtime. Behind the scenes, however, 50 Cent was working to mend relationships with Tony Yayo, Lloyd Banks, and even Young Buck. On June 1, 2014, during Hot 97's Summer Jam, 50 Cent brought out all three artists, and the crowd went wild. This marked an official G-Unit reunion. Following the reunion, they flooded the streets with freestyles over other artists' beats, a classic G-Unit move. They announced plans to release 2 new EPs, and it seemed like things were really cool between Buck and 50 Cent once again. However, fast forward to 2018, and things would sour between the two again. From 50 Cent's perspective, he felt that Young Buck owed him over $300,000, so he decided to hit Buck where it hurt, by issuing cease and desist orders for anything Buck tried to release through G-Unit Records. And as if that wasn't enough, 50 also took the opportunity to clown Buck over a scandal involving a transgender woman named Perfect. Rumors had been swirling that Buck was secretly involved with Perfect, and things escalated when an audio recording surfaced of a man, allegedly Buck, calling her and demanding she take down whatever she posted about their relationship and issue a statement to clear his name. Perfect later apologized for the audio leak, claiming her account had been hacked and she had no part in the recording getting out. She said, "First, I would like to start by apologizing to David Buck, his family, friends, and anyone who has been offended or hurt by the video that was recently posted on my page. Unfortunately, I haven't had access to my page for over a week." Young Buck went online to deny everything. In an interview, he admitted that he had been catfished once but insisted that it ended there. He claimed he never had any relationship with the woman and felt he was set up, though he wasn't sure why he was targeted. Buck's side of the story is that the trans situation didn't go down the way everyone thinks, and it's not the reason why 50 was going after him. According to Buck, the real issue was money. He found out that he was owed more money than he had been receiving, and when he confronted 50 about it, things took a turn for the worse. Fast forward to 2023, and Young Buck announced he was going to sell his music catalog to generate some much-needed revenue. Buck had once been so honored to have the opportunity to make it in the music industry that he overlooked the business side of things, which left him indebted to G-Unit for decades after being dropped. Despite 50 Cent's monumental success, he never let up on his beef with Buck. This relentless feud left the Nashville rapper struggling from the day he was dropped by G-Unit, and he never fully recovered. Even though Young Buck had a strong start to his career, we can only wonder what he could have achieved if his legacy hadn't been marred by politics and drama.